We'll wait a second till people jump on, but then here we go. So we are live. This is a Better Listen Up with Evan J. Thomas show. And we are currently live on a few different platforms. First time I'm doing this on Facebook. So I want to thank you guys all for following. Those of you who are watching off of either the Better Listen Up with Evan J. Thomas show page, Badass Radio Network, Tag Publicity, Badass Productions, and Gillsaw. So today's show, I have a badass musician, Joel Gills, with his band Gillsaw, who is just days away from releasing his first single, Risen, which drops on this Friday, January 10th. And guess what? We will be taking your questions during the show if we get enough time to do so. So let's hit this intro. All right, Evan J. Thomas here, the Better Listen Up show. We got Joel Gills over here of the band Gillsaw.
What's happening, brother?
What is going on with you?
I am living the best life, bro.
So this is, like I was telling you the other day when we set this up, it's kind of a trial run for me doing it this way. We got the cool little background set up. We got the cool colors going on. Obviously, we got the graphics and everything going. So I got something going right. You also have something going right with Friday, because Friday,
Yes,
man, you are releasing your first debut single, Risen. Holy
it's
cow,
happening.
man. How excited are you to get this out finally?
Beyond excited. Can't put it into words, actually, how excited I am for it. It's been a long time coming, right? This is one of those things that it seems like it's decades in the making, right? And then it actually like comes to fruition in a very short period of time. And so that's kind of the way it feels for me right now. And so, just excited to see, how it lands and hopefully people enjoy it. And, there's more to come behind that as well. So looking forward to it.
And we'll get into what the song's about, but this is most likely probably the first time you've ever used a publicist, being me.
Correct.
So I reached out to you on social media. We kind of had an awesome, like almost hour conversation.
Yep.
What was your experience kind of dealing with any other publicists or anything in the past besides myself?
In the past, I've always done in the various bands I've been a part of, I've always been the publicist myself, right? And so this is actually my first time pulling in support in that regard. And it's one of those where with Gillsaw, I really want to up level the professionalism across what it is that I'm doing here. And so what that means is there's some areas where you just need to pull in the professionals to lean on their expertise and know-how, which is how I was, you and I connected when you reached out to me. I was pretty excited about that.
So going through the motions of working with a publicist, there's a lot of bands out there that are very wary to do so. What, if at all, before you even started doing this, did you have any, kind of drawbacks to working with a publicist?
That's a great question because actually I was executive producer for a band that we spent a lot of money on publicity for that band. And the challenge we had there was everything was set to launch right when COVID hit, right? And so we never actually got to see, did those investment dollars actually, return because the whole thing went up in smoke. And so, but I do know that it was a sizable investment that we put into the promotion and the marketing engine behind that. And it was revving really well until COVID derailed everything. So, so I think but the other thing is there's a lot of like, you got to make sure that you have a high level of trust with those who you're engaging with, because there's a lot of sharks out there, man. Like I get hit up all the time with people who, hey, I'll write you this article. I'll do this for you, that for you. And so you really got to kind of dig into the credentials and, what's the backstory on this person? What's the company that they're representing, right? So, because it's a lot of money, and it's also your reputation as an artist, right? Like this is a brand, and you have to protect the brand, and so you want to make sure you're working with the right people who think the same way about the brand that you do.
And interesting you say that, kind of look at the credentials, kind of do your research. Always do your research on who you're talking to, who you possibly might be working with. Um, Interesting little story. Yesterday, I had a conversation with a gentleman who has had now two bad experiences with two different publicists, and he reached out to me because of what he was seeing on my social media.
Yeah.
So it kind of impressed by that, but the fact that there are teams of people, many of them, that kind of drop the ball on people is really sad on how that kind of works. And unfortunately, some of the names that he gave me are big names in the industry. I'm not going to drop any of that. I'm not going to ruin anybody's reputation, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you definitely have to do your due diligence on doing your what you, as we said, your research.
Yeah. And the music industry is a really interesting space right now, right? Like when you look at the big players in the industry, there's a lot of vampires there, right? From
Yep.
record labels, from distributors, you fill in the blank. And so yeah, for me, I almost prefer to work with somebody who is not in the brand names that overarch across the industry, because I don't think the value is there, and I think that they're in it strictly for themselves. So
Unfortunately, a lot of people are like that, and I've seen it over the 20 plus years I've been in this industry. It is crazy the amount of sharks, like you just said, that are out there, and it's sad. So I'm talking with Joel Gills. If you see at the little screen there, Gillsaw. He's actually releasing his first single, debut single, this Friday via Tag Publicity, and I think it goes out at 10 a.m. Central Time. So at least the press release does.
yeah,
What time is the song dropping?
the song drops at midnight Thursday night into Friday.
So
So
it'll be available. It'll be all over your streaming socials and everything, and all those, YouTube. I'm gonna be getting it out there to a bunch of different radio stations and people like that. Also, media blogs. So let's get into the actual music that you're putting out for
yeah,
Gilsaw. You and I have talked over the last several weeks. You got more music coming out, but let's talk about the debut single, Risen. What's the story
sure.
behind that? I think I saw something that it's a character, right?
That's right.
All right.
Yeah, I did a kind of an overview, quick overview today on who Risen is, because it's kind of important that that message gets out there of this character. So the song is Risen, and if you see some of the imagery on the song, actually, you'll see this mask that shows up quite a bit in the
Mm-hmm.
imagery of the song, the videos and whatnot. And what Risen is, it represents all of the evil in society with regards to people who try to take advantage of those who are in kind of desperate situations, and like the predators in society, right? And so it's not a nod to Satan by any stretch. And online, it seems like it's pretty. I apparently hit a nerve with a lot of people because I keep getting this is devil music and
Uh,
whatever. It's not for you. Move along. And so, but it really is to represent kind of those like soul suckers in society who will take advantage of somebody who is in a desperate situation. And it's part of an EP that tells a broader story of that, right? And so it's a really critical piece to that overall story. And so, yeah, it's yes, there's some demonic imagery associated with the video and whatnot, and it's meant to grab attention. But yeah, so it's really what it's about.
so as you see, Risen is actually spelled Rizen. I have that on the graphics now. So make sure when you do look it up, obviously Gilsaw and then Risen. Like I said, it's going to be on all social media platforms. We will be taking questions if anybody has any here in a little bit. How did you get into doing this type of music? You said you were in another band. What was that band like compared?
Yeah, so been in multiple music projects, over the years, right? And some being like tributes and covers, and then others being originals across a bunch of different genres of music. And I always had this like deep rooted passion for some of the early industrial sounds, right? Some of the early industrial musicians. And so I always had this kind of in the back of my mind of I'm going to start something in that regard at some point. And so I'm primarily a drummer. That's my instrument of choice.
Your go-to.
My go-to. I love it. And so you'll see like all of my songs actually start with percussions, start with drums. And so I would create these files of these drum sounds that I would come up with and drum patterns. A lot of times I would make what would sound like a guitar riff on a drum set and just filed them away. And then over time, I've just kind of started mining through those files and realizing, okay, some of these I need to actually start turning into full blown songs. And Slippery Slope, that's what got this thing started. And then, and now we're here. So it was a lot of fun to take those drum files and then just build walls of sound on top of them.
I mean, to be able to sit and watch you probably do that would be masterful. I've seen other artists do that. I've actually seen hip hop artists put stuff like that together. It is interesting how they do the layer of sounds
Yeah.
with their Pro Tools or whatever they're using to do the mixing. Get, Getting into Gillsaw as a whole, you said you were going to be releasing more music in the near future as well. What is that going to kind of entail with Risen? Like, how is this? Is it going to tell a story? Is it going to be a mixed bag? What are you looking at with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, great question. So actually, the first EP is a whole story that Risen is a part of, and so the story is about this gentleman he operates a lighthouse, right? And he thinks he's doing what's right for the world. He's protecting these ships from crashing into the island. And then over time, he realizes nobody really cares, right? Like he's not getting recognition or he's not getting the support that he feels that society should give him for his contributions to society. So he starts to turn down a bit of a dark path. That's where Risen comes into play, right? Like he's looking for some sort of outlet to hold on to give him some sort of self-worth. Risen comes in, evil force, does a lot of manipulation. And then there's a follow-up song, which is the next song that'll be coming out called Siren Comes. And that's about seduction, right? The sirens from the Odyssey, where they were the enchanted voices that would sing and cause the sailors to sail into islands. So they're really evil with a beautiful voice, right? And so I thought, what would happen if a siren actually broke free from that and actually went to try to possess somebody, right? And so that's and then the next song talks about Risen doing some evil things to the person and convincing them to actually do a self-burial. And then the last song, you learn that actually all of that is a figment of this man's imagination. And he actually is somebody who has been kind of chewed up by society and really just found outlets in very unhealthy ways, including like really heavy drug use. And he lived this nomadic lifestyle and actually ended up succumbing to a drug overdose in a ditch down by the Salton Sea in southern central California. And so these are like the whole album was like his closing thoughts and the imagination of his thoughts as he was succumbing to that illness, right? So it's kind of a heavy album, right? A heavy EP. There's a story there of the toxicity of society and what it is that how people, it's really hard to grow successfully in society with a lot of the way that we have it set up. And so, hopefully it's something that calls out for people who are struggling with mental health or substance abuse or whatever, trying to find that thing in their life to give them balance and just kind of say, I hear you. Right. And so
it's not just a story. It's also a look at how life is also.
Correct.
So it's kind of a mixed bag of all of that combined. Some of the artists that you had told me that you, before we jumped on, but the last few weeks that I've known of you, who or what groups, music, and I hate to ask, what are your influences?
Sure.
Who are the best ones that you took stuff from?
Yeah.
Like, who are some of the pioneers?
I've got 3 areas that I really pulled from in the music that I'm creating. The first is the industrial pioneers, the big names, right? Like Nine Inch Nails and Ministry and like early Marilyn Manson and some other lesser known bands at that time. But I really, I first of all, I love that sound that they created in that music, and I like how they broke the mold of like what is an instrument. You know, like they would just create these like unique and crazy sounds, and then they would just twist them and distort them and reverse them and then build on top of them
Hmm.
and layering. And so they broke all paradigms of what an instrument was, and I really appreciate that like rebelliousness of that music genre. Then the second one is progressive metal. I'm a huge progressive metal fan.
Prog metal.
Yeah, exactly. It's uh, huge fan of that, and for me, it's a lot of breaking the mold of what constitutes a song structure, you know. And so, you listen to some of these progressive, first of all, 25-minute long songs, right? And
Yeah,
there feel like there's
exactly.
7 songs crammed into there, right? And so they've really broken the mold of what it means to be the structure of a song. And then the third area is really kind of like new age ambiance. And I really do enjoy that, where it's just kind of a soft mental journey that the music takes you on, where it's almost like
Interesting.
meditative type of music.
Like
And
an
so
like an Enya or something like that.
exactly. Yeah, there's this one
Yeah.
Steve Roach is I love that guy. He just creates unique sounds that I really enjoy. And so to me, it's like an amalgamation of those three, right? And so, so hopefully it's a unique sound, and it won't be for everybody, but hopefully it does resonate with some. And so, yeah. Anyway, that's really the influences.
It's safe to say with the new age kind of ambiance, you're not going to be listening to the rest of Gillsaw while getting a massage in a massage bed or something like that.
it,
I
it,
think it might scare you or wake you up or something
it
that.
might jar you a little bit as you're getting
Hey, I
some
can sleep
tissue
through
rubs.
all that, so I'm good to
Yeah,
go. I do see that there are people actually joining us on our social media. So if you have any questions for Joel Gills and Gilsaw or in his song Risen or anything else you want to ask him, feel free to drop it in the comments there. If it's good enough, be smart with what you're saying. That's all I ask. Is just come up with a cool question for him. I'm trying to
yeah,
do my best, just kind of winging it with him. So looking at what you do too. So obviously with the music part, you bring all that. What about the visual imagery? Where did
yeah,
that come through? I'm figuring probably movies, horror movies, stuff like that.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite horror movies, not necessarily a horror movie, but is The Crow, right? So that was
By far one of my favorites.
right. It's just like a perfect movie, perfect visuals, and Brandon Lee
The
was just
original,
amazing.
not the new
Yeah,
ones. I
oh
haven't
yeah, I
seen the
won't
new
watch the
one.
new one. I won't watch the new one. I
I
refuse.
will eventually, but not there yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be in a really different headspace for that, I think. But it like there's a lot of really dark but uplifting imagery there, right? Like it's a story of love and passion,
Hmm.
but
It's a love
and
story.
also revenge, right? And so so it's hey, that's the nice thing about being a human is we get the whole bouquet of experiences of being a human, right? Including rage and anger, and fear and sadness, in addition to joy and happiness and love and all that, right? And so yeah, the imagery is a little darker, a little more centered on, kind of horror, light horror, right? But yeah, it's also uh, I when I was younger, I was a really into art and just really enjoyed art. Actually, when I first went to college, it was for art, and so I just really have a lot of that in me as well. And so I just want to get that expression out, and we'll see where it goes, right? Like there will be a lot of different types of songs that get created here under the Gilsaw umbrella, and so we'll see how the imagery kind of morphs over time.
So looking at you releasing more new music, is there a chance that you would be ever playing live with this since you're
Good question.
basically as of right now one person
Mhm.
thing? Obviously, you can turn it into a band, hire people, but just wondering if that's in the cards.
1,000%. So my vision for and that's why you will hear me speak of Gilsaw as a band.
Got it.
And that is because my vision for this is I want to plant the seed myself. I want to have kind of full creative control for planting the seed of what Gillsaw is. But then that next iteration of Gillsaw will absolutely include other musicians into the mix. And then at that point is when we will have this at a point where we can actually go out and do live performances. I love playing live. Again, I in other bands as a drummer, I just love it. That energy of a stage. Live music is really a challenging world these days, and
Hmm.
so I'm going to have to be smart on how we approach that. But that is definitely the vision of the next phase of Gillsaw for sure.
And looking at the future of Gilsaw, your social media is pretty damn good. Doing social media with as a band, as a solo artist, as of right now, how does your day usually go? Because obviously we know
Yeah.
anybody that runs a band or anything like that, social media is almost as much as a full time job as anything else. How do you kind of coincide all that together?
Yeah. So right now, Gillsaw is my full time job, and so I've actually approached it that way. And so, like today's a great example. I spent the first half of the day doing nothing but social media for the entire first half of the day. So then grabbed lunch and then I came back in and I did 4 hours of mixing on one of the upcoming songs from the EP and mixing and I like redid the vocals and so it was a lot of like record. I had and it's you have to break your mindset, right? I have to get into like an artist headspace when I'm doing that and instead of like the business headspace when I'm doing the other pieces of it. And so uh, I don't like to multitask because, like the thinking when I'm doing, how do I want to structure my ads or whatnot for social media is different than what is the sound that I want to get from an atmospheric standpoint heading into the bridge for this particular song, right? Like those are two different headspaces for me.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's got to be crazy in your mind right now, just
It
trying to
is.
separate all that too.
It is, yeah. And the nice thing for me is you know, I have life experience in both of those realms, and so I'm able to pull from those. And I I have made the declaration to myself that nobody will outwork me in this industry, and so I really do take it as a mindset of like throwing those work boots in the morning and let's get at it, right? And so yeah, so I'm in it, man. I'm in it 100%.
That's pretty cool how you look at it as a full time job. Obviously, we know there's many artists out there that doing bands, doing their work is kind of like a side project. It's a hobby. It's when they can get to it. You are dedicated to kind of hit it and go. And being that you're not like a big name yet, it's not easy to start basically from zero.
No.
Like you said, that's kind of why you're bringing other people in to kind of help you get the word out and everything. I've seen some of your interviews you've done so far, man. You're just rocking it out, man. So appreciate you
Yeah.
doing that. Appreciate it all those podcasts. Anybody that helps out independent artists,
Yeah.
unbelievable to kind of do that. So that's why I love doing this as well.
For
Finding
sure.
people like you, helping people out, and just trying to get that word out there.
Yeah, like it for me, I appreciate that. And I view this I talk a lot about the tribe, right? Like to me, this is you got to find your tribe in any industry, but in this industry especially. And uh, it's those that have will lean in and give you a hand are the ones that I want to absolutely make sure that I give a hand right back to, and so yeah, I bring no ego into this. I'm not I actually went through the process of thinking how much I, as a person, wanted to be visible with Gilsaw, or how much do I just want to keep it behind a veil? Because to me, it's not ego driven. And then I decided that no, there's definitely a human connection that is needed with the story of Gilsaw, and so that's why I decided to not do that. But yeah, those human connections are super important. The people who are willing to help out and lend a hand, like they're in my tribe and like they will never be forgotten. And so that's for sure.
That's awesome that you're humble, but also look at some of your pioneer people who are not as humble. So you, you got Al Jorgensen. He's somewhat, but he's out there. You got Trent Reznor, obviously,
Yeah.
he's out there. But then you have Maynard. who doesn't want to be involved?
Exactly. That's
So
right.
it's like it's one of those things where yeah, it just depends on how you want to run it, how you want to do things. Like I said earlier, there are a few people watching. If you have a question for Joel Gilsaw, he has a song coming out on Friday called "Risen." Drops all over the social medias and the streaming platforms. Anywhere you can find it, it'll be all over his websites and everything. And you'll see a press release from Tag Publicity, me. I'm helping out getting that out there. So that's going to be a blast getting that out and seeing the reaction that people are giving to you. I do already actually have a couple other podcasts I'm reaching
Yeah,
out to that want to bring you on, so that'll be cool as
that's
well.
awesome.
Um, One last thing, but kind of before we go, like I said, if anybody has any questions, drop them in now because we only have a few more minutes left before we get out of here. What are your expectations with Risen?
Yeah. Yeah, I with all of this, like I said, this is not ego driven. This is truly just my passion. And so for Risen, there will be a subset of people who it resonates with, who both
Mm-hmm.
either the story of Risen or the sound that I'm creating, or a combination of both. And I really want to find those people, right? And find those connections, and so that's really what my goal is. I listen. This music is not commercial. It's not mainstream. Like I have no uh grandiose view of this being like broadly adopted by any stretch, because it's not. It's very niche, right? And so it's finding that niche, finding those fans that live inside of that niche, the other bands that live inside of that niche, and like how can we pull together that that tribe. Is really that's it. Like that's I have no fame and fortune expectations. I'm just in this truly for the passion. So.
And you have to be excited as hell for this to finally come out.
Dude, it's a combination of excitement and then also, the brain, right? Like it'll throw what ifs your way, and so
Mm-hmm.
like it's kind of processing through a lot of that as well. Being an artist is vulnerable, as you know, like in the work that you're doing, you put yourself out there as well. So there's a vulnerability to that, and so there's some bravery that's needed to face that vulnerability as well. So,
Yeah, you're gonna need some thick skin.
mhm.
Obviously, any stupid ass social media comments,
Yeah,
just let all that go because there's gonna be haters regardless. I mean, I've had them for years with what I do as a photographer or whatever. I'll
yeah.
probably get even more now. I don't care. That's
I,
the whole thing.
yep,
You
agree.
just have to run with the good, run with the bad, and just kind of accept it as it is. There are people out there that just are not happy about themselves. So they have to try to tear other people down.
Dude, that's it. And yeah, my standard response to that is, hey, thanks for listening. It's not for you. Kind of move along. There's what 100,000 songs that are released on Spotify on a day to day. Go find another
Wow.
one. There are 99,999 other songs that were released that
Exactly.
day. Go find another one, right? So, no big deal.
Yeah, there'll be something that pops up for somebody. So
Yep.
again, Joel, my man, I really appreciate you joining me today. Man, did 30 minutes go by that
That was
fast?
quick. Yeah, that was,
Holy crap.
dude. We had
So
no script, no plans coming in. Like we said,
no, like I
conversation.
said, I wing my conversations, man. It's just one of those things where I feel more comfortable doing it that way. Obviously, I knew a little bit about your background with what we discussed, so that kind of helps out. But yeah, Friday, check it out. We're having the brand new song. You're gonna hear it on Badass Radio Network all day long. We'll have it there. It's gonna be dropping all over, the streaming services. Again, Gillsaw, Risen. Joel, do you have any last words before we sign off?
Gratitude. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime. What platform or what streaming services are you hitting? Hitting them all?
All of them, absolutely all of them, and all my socials are at Gillsaw Band. So go and find.
Perfect. So Joel, awesome. Can't wait. It's gonna be exciting. And until Friday, get your ass out there and get some more interviews in. I'll see what I can do to help you
Love
out
it.
with that too. So
Good stuff.
appreciate you. Again, Evan J. Thomas here. I got Joel Gills with the band Gillsaw. His new song Risen is coming out Friday. This is the Better Listen Up with Evan J. Thomas show. We are live currently on Tag Publicity, Badass Radio Network, and Badass Productions. So thank you guys all for that. We're watching. So until next time,